Yeshua strips the seven seals from the scroll in chronological sequence so that those who would twist Scripture will not be able to mislead his servants with fanciful, invented tales. In Yeshua's earlier revelation to four of his disciples on the Mount of Olives, he told them to take heed, pay close attention, and obey his words so that they will not be deceived concerning the things that lead up to his return to the earth. The same is true in Yeshua's revelation to his servants concerning the beginning of the Messianic age. If his servants do not heed the warnings of Yeshua, religiously motivated deceptions will lead to overwhelming disappointment. Yeshua stepped forward and took the scroll from the right hand of his Father. When he stripped the first seal, a roaring thunder echoed through the universe. One of the four living creatures cried out, "Go!" And a white horse went forth, whose rider had a bow in his hand. A crown was given to him, and he went forth, conquering and to take dominion over the earth. Isaiah's prophecy is etched in stone at the United Nations headquarters. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The globalists, who pretend to ride the white horse of peace and social justice, neglected to include the beginning of Isaiah's prophecy. In that day the Torah shall go forth out of Zion, and the word of Yehovah from Jerusalem. The Almighty will judge the nations and rebuke many people according to his Torah, not tyrannical edicts of atheist globalists. Every charismatic leader with plans to bring us into a new world order has promised peace, prosperity, and an everlasting utopia for those who follow without questioning. Yet every one of them has delivered death and hell to untold millions. At the onset of the Messianic age, when Yeshua begins to strip the seven seals in preparation for his reign, Satan knows that his dominion is soon coming to an end. As his authority is being stripped, his minions go forth with absolute vengeance to bring about their plans for global domination and complete tyranny over mankind. Satan chooses one to rule the earth who will not be restrained by anyone or anything. You need look no further than Hitler as a demonic example. Though every generation could have interpreted their political situation into the text of the Revelation, the revelation is specifically concerning the day of Yehovah, in which these things are initiated and move very swiftly to their final fulfillment. All these things did not happen in past generations, though elements of evil happen in every generation. This is specifically concerning events at the beginning of the Messianic age, in which the fall feast of the Lord begin their intermediate and final fulfillments that lead up to Yeshua ruling the earth from his millennial throne in Jerusalem. Yeshua stripped the second seal, and a second living creature shouted, "Go!" A red horse, whose rider was given a great sword, was also given the authority to take peace from the earth and cause men to kill one another. The rider was given a great sword. A sword is an instrument of death and refers to an implement of war as opposed to a guillotine or electric chair as an implement of execution. In the war theater, a great sword can only be interpreted according to the time period in which any war instrument is employed on the battlefield. A great sword in the time of the Maccabees, for example, was a literal sword, the sword of Apollonius, the Greek general who had plans to kill Judah the Hammer and earn for himself great honor. Vastly outnumbered, Judah attacked the Greeks occupying Samaria, killed Apollonius, and used his great sword in combat for the rest of his life. Likewise, David used the great sword of Goliath as a personal combat weapon. No enemy could get near David and remain in one piece. In the First World War, a great sword could refer to heavy artillery or poison gas. A great sword today could be an intercontinental ballistic missile with multiple 30-megaton nuclear warheads. The leader of the nation of Iran has openly voiced his plan to annihilate the nation of Israel as soon as he acquires nuclear weapons. Providentially, the prophet Zechariah was already shown that Israel would be attacked by such a devastating weapon and launched out of the land of Shinar, modern-day Iran, in the last days. If not for the promise and protection of the one true God, the nation of Israel would cease to exist. Many times I've been asked, where is America in Bible prophecy? Yet, as I have traveled the globe, I have never heard anyone from any other nation ask where their nation is in Bible prophecy. It seems that those living in the United States think that the world revolves around them. It does not. The world and prophecy revolves around Jerusalem. Abraham was promised that all of the land, from the Euphrates to the Nile, belongs to the sons of Abraham through his son Isaac and grandson Jacob. When Israel came out of Egypt, Moses was told that we would not get all the land promised us at that time because our number was insufficient to inhabit all the land. We would be given the land by little and little. The 10 northern tribes of Israel, for the most part, have been scattered among the nations for more than 2,500 years. Those inhabiting the area of Judea have been scattered for nearly 2,000 years. The nations of Israel, China, and India are about the same age. Neither China nor India have been exiled from their homeland. Each of those nations number more than 1 billion people. Even though Israel's been scattered among the heathen for more than 2 millennia, just as Moses prophesied, it was also prophesied that they would come back into their homeland in the last days and would need all the land that was promised to their father Abraham. The prophet Isaiah said that the Chinese would be involved in the return of the sons of Israel after the war that would leave the land of Israel bereft of her children. It is not unreasonable to expect that the one nation, promised to be as innumerable as the sands of the sea, would return to their homeland more than 1 billion strong at the end of the upcoming war. Joel spoke of the war in which the smoldering aftermath would darken the sun, stars, and turn the moon blood red. Zechariah was shown a great sword, nuclear missiles that would level cities. The prophet Amos said, "Surely the Lord Jehovah will do nothing except he reveals his secret unto his servants, the prophets." To prepare the nation of Israel for the existential war that would confront them at the onset of the Messianic age, and to prepare the scattered remnant of Israel who will be called home in the last days, an angel was sent to the prophet Zechariah to explain a very disturbing vision. Zechariah said, "I turned and looked up and saw a roll, a Megillah, flying through the sky. It was 34 feet long and 5.5 feet in diameter. The angel of Jehovah explained, 'This is the curse that will come upon the entire land. Everyone that falsely represents me, and all who steal words from each other and implies the words come from me, will be killed by it, says Jehovah. I am the one who will bring this on. It will enter the house of those who steal my words and swear falsely in my name. This flying Megillah will destroy entire buildings, including the wood and the stones, and a deadly residue shall remain.' Then the angel said, 'Look closer, and I will tell you what this flying object is. It is a flying container. This is what they look like all over the earth.' Then I saw a round weight of lead, and inside the lead was a fire. And the angel told me it was an evil fire. The lead weight and the evil fire was put into the container and covered. Then I saw another container that had wings like the wings of a stork, and it had 2 fires coming out of it. It lifted the first container with the evil fire and carried it away. I asked the angel, Where are they taking the container with the evil fire? The angel answered, to the land of Shinar, ancient Persia, Babylon, Assyria, where it will be set up on its own base. Zechariah saw and attempted to describe in the vocabulary of his day what I've witnessed dozens of times. The United States Marines stationed at Marine Barracks, Cecil Field, Florida, were tasked with the guarding of nuclear warheads in a high-security installation. Decommissioned and declassified, I can now say that my job as a Marine was to guard those nukes and to escort armed convoys when the warheads were being transported to the airfield. The nukes were loaded onto the bomb racks of fighter jets and then transported to aircraft carriers out in the Atlantic Ocean. We stood guard, locked and loaded in full combat gear, until those jets, with stork-like wings and 2 jet fires burning, lifted those nukes off the tarmac. 1,600 years ago, when scribes near my home in Tiberias added the vowel points to the text of Zechariah, they added a singular dot to the unvoweled original, which changed the pronunciation of the letter Aleph from A, Asha, fire, to E, Isha, woman. That one added dot changed the entire prophecy. An evil fire, encased in lead, inside a flying cylindrical container the exact size of a Scud missile, set up in the land of Shinar, that would be launched against the land of Israel and completely demolish entire buildings, including the wood and stone, and leave behind a deadly residue, didn't make much sense 2,000 years before the first airplane was invented. But now, an evil woman in a flying basket doesn't sound that lethal. A great sword will come against the land of Israel in the last days. Peace will be taken from the earth. Much bloodshed will ensue. Yeshua told us that it would happen, and the aftermath will transpire exactly as it revealed to Yohanan and to his faithful servants. But how can we know when the time of its fulfillment is close at hand? Let's keep reading. Not only were there no vowel points in the original manuscript of Zechariah, there were no chapter markings or verse markings either. Keep reading. Then I turned the other direction and looked, and I saw 2 mountains of brass, and out from between those 2 man-made mountains of brass, I saw war chariots emerge and spread across the face of the earth. Brass is a man-made alloy. Natural geologic formations are not brass, nor do they look like brass. But the 2 most famous man-made mountains of brass that actually look like brass because of their reflected color was the World Trade Centers in New York City that imploded on September 11th, 2001. When they came down, the headlines across America read, "America's New War." The war chariots were immediately released. The United States invaded the Middle East. Russia soon followed. Surely the Almighty will do nothing unless he first reveals it to his servants, the prophets. The United States of America may have found its place in Bible prophecy after all. The initiation of Zechariah's thermonuclear war. In preparation for his millennial reign, Yeshua strips the 7 seals of Satan's authority from the title deed to this world. Satan knows that his dominion is soon coming to an end. His minions go forth with vengeance to execute his plan for global tyranny. The stripping of the first seal brings forth social justice warriors to establish Satan's new world order. A false Messiah complex permeates their mission, as his mind-numbed minions pretend to have all the answers to world peace, yet their media-manipulated path leads directly to totalitarian slavery. They champion a new world order of peace, prosperity, and everlasting utopia as they follow their leader on the great white horse. They charge bravely into a new world of wanton morals and gender fluidity where one can be or do anything one can imagine. The only commandment they follow, do what thou wilt. The stripping of the second seal put a great sword into the hands of those who take peace from the earth. Irrational, fabricated religious fervor fuels terrorism on a global scale. Murder and violence increases until fear and dread replace the comforts and safety of a once sane civilization. Revelation chapter 6, verse 5, we read, Yeshua stripped the third seal, and a third living creature shouted, Go! A black horse charged the earth. Its rider held a balance scale in his hand, and a voice out of the midst of the four living creatures cried out, A small measure of wheat for a day's wage, a little larger measure of barley for a day's wage, but do not damage the oil or the wine. Unlike an agricultural famine in which resources are not available at any price, the rider on the black horse has an unjust balance scale in his hand. It cost an entire day's wage just to buy the bread for one day. Even the poor man's grain, barley, cost an entire day's wage, but oil and wine are untouched. The unjust balance is the devaluation of currency and manufactured economic collapse. The good things in life, the oil and wine, are readily available, but are financially out of reach for the common man. Global economic collapse has long been on the agenda for the New World Order. The world's currencies must be brought under the complete control of the international banking cartel. There is no way out from under the manipulated monetary system of the rich men of this world. Their demonic dominion will eventually end at the hand of Yeshua. James, Yaakov, prophesied of this very event. Come now, rich men, weep and howl because of the miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver are decayed, and their corrosion will be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh like a burning fire. You have heaped together treasure for the last days. The hire of the laborers who have reaped your fields, you kept back by fraud. They cry out against you, and their cries have entered into the ears of Yehovah Tsevaot. You have lived in pleasure on the earth and have been vicious. You have fattened yourselves for the day of slaughter. You have condemned and killed the just, and he has had no power to resist you. Brethren, be patient until the coming of the Lord. The husbandman is waiting for the precious fruit of the earth. He has long patience for it until he receive the early and the latter rain. Be also patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draws nigh. Yes, the Lord is long-suffering, but the day of his wrath is approaching. The international banksters who wage and finance wars for profits and keep most of the world living hand to mouth, from paycheck to paycheck, they are just fattening themselves for the slaughter. Revelation chapter 6, verse 7. Yeshua stripped the fourth seal, and the fourth living creature shouted, Go! A pale green horse was ridden by one who is called Death, and hell, the grave, rode with him. He had authority over a quarter of the earth, to kill with the sword, and to kill with famine, and to kill with the death sentence, and to kill with the living. 1/4 of the earth's population will live and die due to military invasions and the famine that results when invading armies devour all the resources in their path. They kill with their weapons of mass destruction, the sword. They kill by consuming and controlling the food resources, famine. They kill by thanatos, mass exterminations of the ethnically and intellectually undesirable, the old, the young, the worthless eaters. And they kill the masses with therion, that which has life, biological warfare. The beginning of the 21st century has witnessed horrifying repercussions of introducing genetically modified variants into the food chain. Epidemic levels of mutations in the brains of children have multiplied autism thousands of times more than previous generations. The physically and emotionally crippling maladies of genetic and gender confusion have never before been seen in the entire history of the human race. Such physical regression is now being heralded as the new normal. These things may be new to this generation, but Yeshua poignantly prophesied more than 2,000 years ago that mankind would bring himself to the brink of destruction. Unless these days ahead of us were shortened by the intervention of the Almighty, there would no flesh be saved.